my wine supply.
Good. Second grade.
We wrote, is he trying to protest migrant workers' pay? That was our open question that we changed from what is he trying to accomplish? And where is he? We didn't know where he was. That was one of our first questions. And then what does he want to, why does he want to boycott grapes?
Thank you. 3? Art?
We didn't share one.
We said, who is he? Why? Why do they want to boycott, and what was the effect of the boycott? Did we change? Did a boycott happen to was the boycott effective, and what was the effect of the boycott to what happened during the boycott?
What grade?
We said, why is that guy important? What experience did Cesar Chavez have that prompted him to lead the boycott, and what issues did the boycott create?
And 5th grade. Well, 5th grade, go ahead.
5th grade had, why are they boycotting grapes? We had, where are they boycotting the grapes? And when did this happen and why?
Good, good. Specialist?
Was back in Roman days we didn't do that.
Yeah, what does boycott mean? What is wrong with the grapes, and where is he?
Good. And Jane?
Specialist and Jane.
Special. We asked the question kind of like Jennifer did, does it affect wine? Why are they boycotting the grapes, and how does this affect PB&J sandwiches?
What does Donald Trump think?
Immigration
Yes?
It's a close
Close question was,
Number 2nd. Yes?
When you say that, your focus,
The Q focus, yes.
Q focus. Is it expected that the kids have any background knowledge about who that person is at all?
It depends on your purpose. If you've already been teaching and you've gotten down to your performance task, they may already have background knowledge about it. If it's an introductory, if it's a book, a unit, and they've never heard it before, then no, you don't have to expect that they have background knowledge.
Okay, so that will affect the quality of the question, right?
It
Because I mean,
could.
like some of the questions people ask, I mean, you really would have had to have some background knowledge about what boycott is. There's some people generate questions that were like.
But if I know that you don't know anything about Cesar Chavez, and you don't know anything about the grapes, you're going to be asking things like what you saw on the sign, you see it's a man, you know.
A live specialist back here asks, what is a boycott?
Right.
But if that's where it becomes like informative though.
It does, yes.
Right. But it doesn't always, you know, I guess we always want them to know the answers. But the idea of trying to do is for develop questions that would, there you go, that would then promote them to go for further more information, more inquiries. That's the intent behind it.
Can I say that I think that's the biggest hurdle for us and for them? We always want them to know the answer. And so when we tell them to generate questions, their first question is going to be, what do you mean? Can you show me? Can you model it for me? Because I don't know what you're talking about. There's got to be a right and a wrong answer, even if it's a question. And you've got to let them learn how to formulate the question. They might not have any background knowledge, and at first you're going to have some really silly, funny questions, but they're going to learn that skill.
And by nature, I mean, children are inquisitive. They are going to always ask questions.
Can I add something to that? This is really, really similar and very affirming for those of us who've done double IM. There's a step in double IM that does exactly this, and it's really critical to get the Q focus. If pre-assessment is in place, and you know that there are students who could go deeper and more complex, you'd want to differentiate this strategy. Wouldn't you? Because you wouldn't want them to have some of the surface questions like you're talking about. They already know the answer to that. Right? And here's one other thing too. If you did this with whole group, I'm just wondering, I'm just trying to think about.
Thinking out loud.
I'm thinking out loud, forgive me. But I need you to help me with this. That's why I'm thinking out loud. If you did this whole group as like a pre-assessment to find out what your students did know, yeah, you could do that. But if you really are truly going to use this for research and go there, how do you know who's asking the high and who's asking the low? Just throwing it out there.
Well, just like today, we walked around and we kind of listening to those questions. The idea is to provoke those questions. Then themselves can then choose some of those research. If I'm doing research in whatever my Q focus is, let's say the Revolutionary Wars, and we come up with all these questions, you can then at the end grab all those questions that the kids came up with and then decide which ones you want to go into further research. The kids themselves generated those questions. They want to find the answers to those questions. That's what I think. Now, in terms of differentiating, it all depends your purpose.
Right.
If you could have two groups going with two Q focus, you can do that as well. And I know, like, first grade was already thinking about, well, you know, how can we use this? Well, we can give these different groups different animals, and that will be their Q focus, the image of that animal. So it's the purpose behind it, but definitely you can differentiate it, and it can be used in differentiation.
Okay.
Yes. What's a double I?
Definitely, there's some, that's right, some students that can't verbally, in terms of special ed, communicate it, but you have to differentiate in that area. I agree. Anything else? Any other additional questions?
I'm supposed to know this now. Thank you.
You do now.
There are two that the district has adopted. That's one, and the other one is the one.
That's good enough. You good. Thanks.
Okay, so students can use this question for many purposes, like I said. So if you want them to conduct a research and that's the purpose, then your Q focus will be a little different. If they're going to develop a board, conduct experiments, independent projects, write a paper or essay, group or individual projects, like seminars, have a debate, prepare a presentation, if you're using it as a hook. There's different purposes behind it. So then now it's where, what are you going to do with those questions? So here we're going to
That's so funny.
Often led the backbreaking efforts of migrant laborers. One such laborer was Cesar Chavez. Working long, hard hours in the fields, Chavez came to know firsthand the sufferings of migrant workers. He was a quiet man, but he began to show a genius for leading and organizing farm workers in a bid for better wages and better working conditions. He was deeply influenced by the philosophy of nonviolence of Mahatma Gandhi, and this later became a major theme in Chavez's leadership of the farm worker movement. Chavez organized nationwide consumer boycotts against growers in an attempt to win concessions for farm workers. He also led a successful attack to outlaw the short-handled hoe, which had caused permanent back injury to thousands of farm workers. Until the 1980s, Chavez continued to fight to alleviate the suffering of people. He was an extraordinary example of the power of an ordinary person to effect change. He always sided with the people.
There's been some reports calling you a loser in that if you lose the 29 contracts here in the Delano area, that will be the end of the United Farm Workers. Do you agree with that? We got the people, they got the country, we got the people to win.
Chavez once said, "I am convinced that the truest act of courage, the strongest act of humanity, is to sacrifice ourselves for others in a totally non-violent struggle for justice. To be human is to suffer for others. God help us to be human."
So that would have been like the piece after showing the images. And the kids could have gone back to the same questions and see what they could answer in terms of that. So now we're going to move on to the next portion, which is the reflection. And in this part, it's a better cognitive piece. So you ask students, what they think about the work they have done, what they've learned from it. So let me ask you and turn it to you. So what, in terms of what we've done so far up to now, what do you think about this strategy? Do you see, learn with, you open it? Something you would use, something you would not use, something you can implement?
I like
Yes.
that it promotes discussion.
Yeah.
I like that they have the ownership over the questions so that they'll be motivated to want to find the answers. It's not
Yeah.
I picked it, they came up with it themselves.
I also think that it gives other students to hear the ideas of other students. And so even with those lower and higher level questioning, those students that are asking the lower level questions will learn to do the higher level questioning. So it's a learning experience both ways.
I like that piece where they learn to think divergent, so they're thinking broader, and then convergent, so they're learning how to narrow it down to think in different directions. It's really important. Problem solving.
Anything else?
Well, the fact that there's no judgment in the questions at the beginning, kids who are afraid to speak will feel more comfortable to speak because no one's going to judge their question or.
So this high school student from Boston said when you ask the question, you feel like it's your job to get the answer and you want to figure it out. Going back to that whole ownership piece. So I have a few videos and some examples. Some are upper grades, but next time I'll show you. Go ahead.
Today we'll be doing a question formulation technique. I'm not going to be doing any of the generating questions. That all that work is on them. It continues that creative process and it makes them realize, wow, they all have something to contribute because no group asked the same question. You see the transformation. Today we'll be doing a question formulation technique. I'm not going to be doing any of the generating questions. That all that work is on them. It continues that creative process and it makes them realize, wow, they all have something to contribute because no group asked the same question. You see the transformation. They take ownership of the questions that they created more than the ones that I created for them. Because it's like, look, you guys have just done this really hard work. You've just generated your own questions. And typically that's my role as a teacher, right? And so I think that public recognition is really important for students to feel proud and confident in what they just did.
No question, no matter how small it is, whether it's a closed question or open question, it's really not a dumb question. Like that's really my main thing that I learned from it.
Give me a scenario where you think you need to ask a question in life.
We're a rural.
So here's the language arts part where they actually, the cue focus on this one where they have to choose in terms of these statements and then they have to develop questions. So it could be statement, not necessarily pictures. I feel with some younger grades, pictures would be better than just statements. Then the next one is, sorry. This one is they used an image in terms of starting the Civil War. And if you look at the question, it says, is the guy wearing female clothes? And just any question is susceptible, but as the more they grapple with it, the more deeper those questions become. But their cue focus was an image in this one. Here is the social studies one. This is a high school one with American imperialism. And they have to kind of develop some questions with that. I think this is the video. Yeah, but we'll come back to that just because I want to make sure we cover everything else in time. Here is analyzing political cartoons. Fifth grade is going to start the political cartoons. Even though I'm showing you upper grade images, there's no difference in terms of they're older, they'll develop more questions, but you could use an image. You can use an animal image. You can use a statement, why location matters, or something like that. So here is political cartoon. Fifth grade will start political cartoons soon, so that will be a good cue ask questions. Math, and this is in middle school, they use this, and that was their cue focus, was just a mathematical problem, have the kids come up with questions in math. You could use a fraction, algorithm, anything. So what do we believe? We believe that all students should learn to formulate their own questions, that all teachers can easily teach this skill as part of their regular practice, that you can use it as a code, you can show them a picture, have them own it, have them come up with their own questions, and get used to developing more questions. Probably the first time is going to take you more than 5 minutes because it's their first time, but the more they practice with it, the better they become at it. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you a piece of paper. And with your grade level, I want you to think about your next unit and what would be some cue focus you could use and your purpose behind it. Okay? And then Tara and I will send you your exit ticket. So we'll give you about 10 minutes just to work with your grade level before I give you the exit ticket. And then we'll dismiss you.
Well, we still have electricity. We're doing clinical with like 7 days. We're done. We're pretty much done.
With what? Revolutionary War? I haven't started with it.
No, but I'm saying, I think it might have been here.
She just put they just put words, like a word splash. You could do like a Wordle, and it just has like tornado or hurricane. You have the dog.
Tell them that when they're hooked, they can touch them. They touch them 3 times.
Battery and wires. Couldn't that be a cue focus? Like you said that, like.
Does that have to be a
It could be a mixture. So I think the demonstration I like short gift. I think that's a good provoking thing. So we can start with the.
But if you put that there with nothing else, I like it. Will they ever get to what? If you gave
What is how do I question? How do I get like this? How long do I stay? Our topic could be a picture of a tornado that's like on the path.
How bright is the light? I mean, I know that's a question, but I'm just saying they can generate.
You show a snake one, right, with all the different colonies.
Because you show the ones with it cut
We
off.
also had one that that one, right? We really only need to know last three.
Battery, wire, and bullets. But I just finished doing it.
That is not, that gets pretty long, but it's the one we show the most is the United Our Guide. I mean, it's not on the assessments, they put it on the city website.
You have to have two.
Battery, wire, and a bullet.
Latimer, Faraday, Edison. I'm gonna put one. Oh,
I thought that was one.
well, that's actually what it is.
Is that what? Right.
You could do it.
I think you need a roadmap. I think you need a map.
I was large.
We were gonna do 5 different images, because they're all different types of sources. And they could be so that one table.
You know why it's tough for our group? Because we don't do colonial time.
The exercise will be able to go later.
So a lot of these kids don't even understand that things are happening in Boston, Georgia. They're like,
The public revenue sharing.
that's why I showed that.
But with the revenue sharing, we're covered up and only let them see a section. Everything else is covered up. So they only see a section. That's the chart in the other one, right? And then you,
Images of
so they're still not seeing the full picture. So they have to really ask the question. Only one is actually saying this. So they're
Next thing, we're gonna come back and talk about Unbelievable versus
Tar and Feather is cartoons.
We haven't signed in.
And you just show
There's one left, only one left over. And I just like how we open our unit.
What book are you?
Meteorologist? Is that what you're really don't. Put a picture of a meteorologist working in like computers. Or the green screen.
a little bit.
Don't worry if they put out a ton of video games.
They need somebody so that you can.
There's one of them that, yeah, there's one. I don't think the kids can go let them There's a big video game.
They need something. Storms, then divide out, and then they start taking.
And then they could go back to the TV started with the printed image war. You had the printed image war. Character change to the Patriots. So they knew all the terms. It was the easiest I ever taught. Because I had like 4 or 5 boys in there that played it intensely at home, and they just spread it out of the top.
Like Civil War. Civil War, you can show a quick video, like January 31st and her goal. And then how to make it and model how to show it.
Which one's going to answer?
Yeah, I don't think you're supposed to do any kind of question.
Yeah.
So that is immediately
Yeah, like because somebody I'll ask Tara that she goes falling out of his chair.
Who was that? Huh? The rest?
Ray was so focused on the book, and he was so eager that I was start to report. So flying right out of his chest.
I gave a little blurb about what to expect next week.
No, he's
So I was like, well, we get another unit.
So we said American Revolution and
She could, she went up Thursday for like a half an hour. Wait. Those are yours. I just didn't want to go there because I was like, she offered to do it for my class, and then I was like, if I ask her.
you didn't give us that.
Look at a meteorologist from the TV station, has a whole set of she might just get it, but it's 3 minutes.
This one gets turned in. We,
Lord. Boy, their thing is in the.
do you have more? I need it. It's just kindergarten, maybe first grade still.
You get 4 points for it.
It took me.
You guys are all having some good news.
No, they're
Right, you do that.
Fraction and division station. Here. Oh,
I
I think
label
mine
it that way.
And then like, this is the answer. And this is the denominator before I started.
Then they can use the center person.
How is that related to division? How is that related to fraction? Would like, would be the little, these things.
Okay,
Thank you. We're counting on our fingers.
Or for comparing fractions, you could put one up in the equation. I think, like 3/4 is greater than.
Oh, I don't need this.
You know what I'm saying? Like one that's smaller. Yeah.
Right.
Five.